Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Thursday, January 22nd. You officially have a new head coach. The 22nd head coach in franchise history announced officially today by the organization. I told you that was the expectation. If not last night, I told you today on the radio show, and I told you there would not be a press conference next week because he has a family matter that was previously scheduled to attend to, and he wants all 8 of his children to be able to attend this press conference. So we will wait until Wednesday at 2 p.m., next Wednesday at 2 p.m., to hear from the Titans head coach. But in the meantime, now that it's official, and obviously it's been the case since late Monday evening, since this was announced, you're FaceTiming Jeff Simmons and Cam Ward to tell them that this is their new head coach. You see Robert Saleh's agent put out a statement through the San Francisco media about how excited he was for these opportunities. So this has been the case for quite some time that Robert Saleh has been the Titans head coach. But just to kind of take your temperature on your level of belief in this individual, and whether or not, understanding that there are still staff decisions to be made, critical staff decisions to be made. And some of the staff decisions as far as retentions and firings that are worth noting, we'll go through. PK has been reporting vigorously on those things here in the last couple of hours. We will talk to you guys about, what's your level of belief in Robert Saleh as the next Titans head coach, as the current Titans head coach moving forward, understanding that there's still some things to be worked out. So we'll get into that. We'll read you Amy Adams Strunk's statement. We know she loves a statement. Read you Robert Saleh's statement, as well as Mike Borgonzi, because all three were put out in a press release earlier today. And we'll look forward to your participation as a result. Share the show around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch if you want to participate. Mr. First Down asked, Robert will appreciate this. He just dipped off screen. I don't know if he can still hear me. He did get a new headset, which he's very, very proud of. But I don't know if Robert will hear somebody asking me to do my version of the Cheyenne voice. How about that, Robert? People are asking for my impression of your lovely fiance. With the
do it.
I don't think you do it first, and then I'll try and mimic it.
Well, I don't even know what you're talking like that. I don't even know what you're talking about.
It sounds so much worse because he's been sick for 3 days at this point in time. I can't even attempt to get my voice into that range as far as some kind of gremlin type creature. Of course, Cheyenne does not sound like. Awful. Stephen Crozio says it sounds like Eric Cartman on the line, as opposed to Robert's wonderful fiance, who puts up with way too much bullshit in order to be in a relationship with that particular creature, which God love her. She's got more patience than me. Anyway, so share the broadcast around, as I mentioned, wherever you are streaming with us this evening, and we'll work our way through all these things. We'll get to a weekend bounce back. We'll ask you who you got to go to the Super Bowl. AFC and NFC championship games lie ahead this weekend, and so we will have Super Bowl participants by the time Monday morning rolls around. So I'll ask you guys who you're picking in the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game. Meantime, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time. On this Thursday night, I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service are what they offer you. By TDOT, the Tennessee Department of Transportation, reminds you that nobody trashes Tennessee, and you can be a part of the solution to end littering at nobodytrashestn.com. By Simon Says Nashville, I told you that they have their 1-year anniversary party scheduled for Saturday. Because of the snowpocalypse that looms, they have rescheduled it for next month, early next month. I'll keep you updated on that. In the meantime, you can still browse online at simonsaysnashville.com to see all the great offerings that they have there for you. So Robert Saleh officially announced today as the franchise's 22nd head coach in history. And I'll just read you straight from the press release. 21 seasons of NFL coaching experience, 6 with the Texans, 3 with Seattle, 3 with Jacksonville, 5 total seasons over 2 stints with the Niners and almost 4 seasons. He had the start of 4 seasons. He obviously was fired in his 4th season as head coach of the New York Jets. So he has been a part of 9 top 10 defenses in 9 seasons as a defensive coordinator or head coach. His team has finished in the top 5 in total defense on 5 occasions. This year, obviously, he went back to San Francisco. He was an assistant or a consultant in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur for a period of time after he was fired. Then went back to San Fran to be the defensive coordinator for a season. Did a good enough job there to get head coach interest, and now has been hired by Tennessee. So all that to say that he has had success in a couple of different areas, but the question remains on, all right, now you have the ultimate responsibility as far as their job hierarchy goes. You're a head coach again. How are you going to improve the things that you failed at, which was quarterback plan, having an offensive coordinator situation that was viable for the young quarterback situation, and decisions that he was at least in part involved with, for example, like trading away Sam Darnold in order to draft Zach Wilson, which was, of course, a terrible, terrible mistake. And many people erred on their evaluation of Sam Darnold. Many people got it wrong around Sam Darnold at that point in time. But what we know about Robert Saleh is that his one attempt to hire his own offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, failed terribly as a first-time offensive play caller. And that by the time they got around to Aaron Rodgers had his hand-picked offensive coordinator that involved Nathaniel Hackett, who is one of the worst play callers we have ever seen. So that was a situation where Robert Saleh really only had one crack at the OC, but he got it wrong in the one crack. And then obviously the Aaron Rodgers situation devolved very, very quickly, both due to injury and due to Rodgers. What should we call them? I don't want to say obstinance. Let's call them eccentricities that Aaron Rodgers brings to the table that are, kind of a complication. Trash can handle on YouTube says, finally, bro, it's been 36 hours. Well, there's some different kind of things that they have to work through as far as contracts go. It didn't take 4 days like it did with John Harbaugh and the Giants, so you can be reassured by that. Ben Hall says, Buck, do you have any inside information as to what was wrong organizationally with the Jets? Well, it's not necessarily inside information. It's public knowledge that he worked for one of the most dysfunctional organizations in football. Woody Johnson is the worst owner in the NFL. And Woody Johnson makes life a lot harder. I would invite you, Ben, to go listen to the interview that I did with Zach Rosenblatt, who is the Jets beat reporter for The Athletic. Really, really good writer and reporter on how many different ways that Woody Johnson got involved, meddled, and made life harder for Robert Saleh. The other thing, and this may not necessarily be, it is, I would probably consider it inside information. I haven't heard it talked about in a variety of different places, but I asked around once he got hired, and even before he got hired, I had somebody reach out to me. I would have to go back through my texts and see exactly when somebody had reached out to me in the league about Robert Saleh wanting the Titans job. Let's see. On September 29th, I was having a conversation. This was even before Brian Callahan got fired. I was having a conversation with a friend in the league about Robert Saleh, and on September the 29th, the text that I received was, Saleh wants the job. Okay. This was right around the time that I was going back and forth on some Brian Callahan stuff. But again, Brian Callahan had not been fired. So Robert Saleh has been thinking about this job in some form or fashion since at least September. At least, according to people that I talked to about that. And I was surprised by it, frankly. I was like, well, what's Robert Saleh want to go from the Jets to the Titans for? Now, this was obviously at the height of their dysfunction. And they struggled for a variety of different reasons to look like an attractive job. So he's been interested in this for quite some time, not just because of Cam Ward. I think he likes the city of Nashville. I know he likes the city of Nashville. I know that the cap space is always appealing, and all the different things that you've heard over and over again about why somebody would want this job. But Saleh has been interested for quite some time. Now, on the things that I know failed him in New York, he did not have a sufficient enough plan for the quarterback and failed there. which is not something that you can afford to have here, of course. He also struggled to hold players accountable, based on my understanding. Now, again, that's not my firsthand experience. I'm going off of what people who work in the New York market and covered Robert Saleh in New York had told me about the situation. And I think I read to you maybe I want to say that I read you guys a portion of this text, going back and forth about some of the things that Saleh does well and some of the things that Saleh does poorly. And I can go back and find that for you. Okay, so this was another conversation from mid-December on Robert Saleh. He's actually a nice person, super communicative, would talk to you all the time, but he gets caught up in the wrong things. He's not tough enough on the players either, doesn't hold guys that accountable. So now, again, the precursor for this is, well, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be held accountable and Aaron Rodgers decides to skip out on mandatory minicamp because he's got a trip scheduled for Egypt and he doesn't want to reschedule it, and there's nothing you can really do other than be like, yeah, we're going to fine him for it. But what show of strength is Robert Saleh capable of in that situation? He was not, obviously, and I think they kind of catered at every turn to Aaron Rodgers, so much so that it reflected poorly, based on my understanding, on other players in the locker room who were at the time playing and being present and being available for all these different things. So again, I think the Aaron Rodgers stuff is a very specific situation for a first-time head coach to have to balance that, and to have failed in doing that. I don't think it's a shock. It's just something to keep an eye on. All right, this is something you did poorly in New York. How are you going to do it better in Tennessee? It should be easier here for him on a variety of different reasons. 92 Dom on YouTube says he did give off a nice guy on Hard Knocks, but yeah, Aaron Rodgers was there. Yeah, this is like a lot of people, and I think we may have talked about this maybe on the radio show. So not 12 in New York. Remember, Aaron Rodgers wore 8, but he's closer personality-wise to Brian Callahan than he is to Mike Vrabel, because we know that Mike never had a problem with holding people accountable, and did so with a bit of an iron fist in that situation. Saleh is far less what's the word that I'm looking for? What would be the verb phrase of dictator-esque, dictator-like in that particular situation? He's far more diplomatic than Mike Vrabel is in a lot of situations. So something to keep an eye on, just as far as Robert Saleh goes and his managerial styles moving forward. Okay, so dictatorial I'm certain I did not pronounce that correctly. But yes, that particular word is what I would not accuse Robert Saleh of being, but based on my understanding of his tenure in New York, maybe it sounds like he could have a little bit of a firmer grasp on things in his second stint as a head coach. So some statements from A.D. Adamstruck, and this is the question that I'll ask you. Your Two Rivers Ford take, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, as is always the custom, made possible by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your level of belief in Robert Saleh, and why? Give me a number and give me your explanation as to why you are buying in. We're not necessarily sold on Robert Saleh. If you're fence sitting, you're allowed to do that too. I would just like a little bit of context in your answer. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? What is your level of belief about Robert Saleh as the next Titans head coach? Made possible by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. While you guys chime in that way with your responses, I will read you the statement from Robert Saleh on behalf of the Titans organization. It's a tremendous honor to serve as the head coach of the Titans. I want to thank Amy Adams-Strunk, Mike Borgonzi, and Chad Brinker for trusting me to lead this football team. Our connection and shared vision during the interview process was immediately evident and reinforced my desire to be a Titan. This is where I want to be. We're not at the level we need to be as a team, and a part of my love for this game is getting better every day and doing it together. We will be deliberate in everything we do. Championships are won by people, and we have the right people to construct a championship caliber program. Finally, I want to make sure I recognize and thank the San Francisco 49ers, the York family, Kyle Shanahan, and John Lynch for 5 special seasons where I grew not only as a coach, but as a husband and a father. The relationships I built during my time there have made me better and given me the opportunity to be here. My family is fired up to join the Titans in this special community. Let's get to work. Robert Saleh, head coach. So your level of belief on a scale of 1 to 10 on Robert Saleh. MB with a completely fair answer. Not rating it until I see the coordinator's hired. Well, you know the one, right? You know that he's going to call his defense. And so you may fret less over the defensive coordinator situation than you would the offensive coordinator situation. Understandably so. Jay Young is very optimistic. He says a 9. For Ant on YouTube, it's a 7. Sweaty Fish, interesting name, says 7, but a 10 if we have Nagy as OC. Really? Why Nagy as an offensive coordinator? Interesting. There, Brian Daboll, Matt Nagy has not been mentioned as an offensive coordinator candidate here for what it's worth. I don't have any expectation that would be the move that they would make. Cliff Kingsbury has been mentioned. Adam Stanovich of the Green Bay Packers has been mentioned. Brian Daboll, if he does not get the Bills head coaching job, has been mentioned. There was one other candidate. Let me go back and look that up here quickly. Tom Pelissero had a few names to keep an eye on, and I will find those for you here momentarily. But those were the biggest names that were mentioned at that particular point in time. So, yes, the offensive coordinator matters a great deal here because right now Robert Saleh does not outright solve that problem. He can help teach Cam Ward about defenses that he'll face and help educate Cam Ward on a variety of different things that he'll see in the league, but it's not the kind of refined quarterback coaching and offensive development that you need for this person to be, for you to have full confidence right now. So let's see. Tom Pelissero has been doing quite a lot of tweeting today since the Ravens job was made official as well. They'll hire Jesse Minter. Okay, so Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stanovich, and Bobby Slowick, potential options for the Titans offensive coordinator. And, Matt Nagy not mentioned as one of them. So I'm surprised to see Matt Nagy's name mentioned there. I know you guys will probably get on me. And Jason Martinez says the face made that I made when I read Nagy as OC. I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Now, I will say that hiring Brian Daboll would make me think much more favorably about this hire. My level of belief that Robert Saleh, just on face value, without, the rest of the staff, my level of belief that Robert Saleh in his second stint as a head coach would be capable of achieving the ultimate goal with the Tennessee Titans, which is championships. Not just that he's the right guy for the job, but to actually accomplish the goal of winning championships. I'd put that squarely at a 4. Now, I know you guys will say that, oh, you're a hater and you're a non-believer, doubter, all these different things. But I am certainly willing to acknowledge that I think Robert Saleh can do a better job with the Titans than he did with the Jets on a variety of different fronts. I do still see a significant number of limitations there from his New York tenure that we do not yet have the answers to. And so it will be a learning process for all of us involved. Before he, starts this program or hires an offensive coordinator or goes through all of the different things that a head coach will go through, I am not, I'm not sold on him by any stretch of the imagination. Just as I'm not sold on, Cam Ward entirely or Mike Borgonzi entirely, because I think I need a substantially bigger body of work to believe that the people who have gotten it very wrong the last couple of years have gotten it that kind of right this time around. I think that it's hard for me to be fully in on a guy whose best season was 7-10 because of his failings to develop a coherent and effective offensive game plan for his franchise and for his program at the time. And I think that no playoff appearances in 3.5 seasons, obviously he was fired halfway through not even halfway through his 4th season. He was fired in the first quarter of his 4th season at that point in time. It's obviously more, my doubt is not without context, right? I know that anybody would have a hard time winning with the Jets. Everybody does have a hard time winning with the Jets. Robert Saleh may have been doomed from the start as soon as he took that job. That's a really, really tough job for a first-time head coach to be thrust into, but he didn't do well with it, right? So Joe on Facebook says he did better than the coach that's at the Jets now. Yes, he did. That's absolutely true. And again, maybe nobody succeeds with the Jets, right? So Robert Saleh gets some grace from me and from, I think, everybody else. Listen, man, it's the Jets. We get it, right? Like, we understand. It was only going to be so effective. You were only going to find ways to be so effective because we understand that that is the worst organization in professional football right now, run by the worst owner in professional football right now since Dan Snyder was forced to sell the Washington Commanders. So I'm going to go with a 4 just on face value. That number, I reserve the right to bump that number up depending on who he hires as an offensive coordinator. I also reserve the right to drop that number depending on who he hires as an offensive coordinator. And we will see what results bear out here in the next couple of days and into next week. But I think Ocho Man says, Buck, aren't you glad you aren't a Jets reporter? Yeah, I don't think I'd want that. I mean, I love New York. I really do. I love New York City a lot. But the Jets also don't like play or practice in New York. They play in damn East Rutherford, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands, which is a swamp in the middle of New Jersey. And I don't think I'd necessarily be living in New York, Manhattan, or something like that if I covered the Jets. So, I think I would be okay with that. They do play, I believe, at the Jets this year, if I'm not mistaken. I know that we are due for a New York trip. Maybe do they play at the Giants? Maybe. There's definitely a New York road trip on the schedule this year. I want to say it's at the Giants, actually. I believe they play the NFC East in 2026. John says, bandwagon Buck will bump that number up if the Titans can get back into the playoffs. LOL, I'm kidding. Well, yeah, I mean, sure. if he gets them to the playoffs for the first time since 2021, yeah, that would be a huge accomplishment. That would be his first time in getting a team to the playoffs. So that would be a significant improvement upon anything that he's ever done. But right now, his best season, 7-10. He's got no playoff appearances as a head coach. So I think a 4 is a fair evaluation for the time being. We reserve the right to adjust that based on new information. So to the next part of this, and we'll await more information on Robert Saleh and the coaching staff moving forward. Kong on comms says, Buck, what do you think of Easton Freeze and Jared Stillman on the new hiring of Robert Saleh? What does that mean? What do I think about what they think? I have no idea what they think. Why is that something that I should know or should be aware of? I have no idea what their thoughts are on the hire. I haven't. Actually, I'm sure Stillman has texted me in the past couple of days, and maybe I just haven't read it yet. Right now, I have 265 unread text messages, so maybe Stillman is floating around in there in my inbox. Because he does love to send me takes, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But I mean, whatever, man, whatever they think, they're entitled to their opinion. I will tell you that in the same way that I don't listen to sports talk radio because I do it for 3 hours a day, and 4 if you count prime time. And I do Fox Sports nationally on the weekend, so I don't really feel the need to listen to what anybody else is saying about anything on things that I'm directly involved with. Now, obviously, I don't have some kind of level of insight on the Dallas Cowboys when we talk about them on Fox, so I will go out of my way to learn and read more about what's going on there. But as far as the opinion stuff, I don't really give a shit what anybody else is saying about this at this point in time, because what do I care what you think? Anyway, so Dom says 265 is crazy. I don't think it is. 265. Robert, how many unread text messages do you have on your phone right now? Can you hear me? He doesn't have his headset on. He seems to be playing on his phone or something like that. I don't feel like for an NFL reporter where we've got a coaching hire and news reporting going on, I feel like 265 unread text messages is not unreasonable. And there's also group texts and all kind of other shit in there. So David Lee says, I have 100. Ben Hall says, I have 0. Well, listen, good on you. Maybe I should be more responsive. I had somebody yell at me earlier today because I took 21 hours to respond to a text, which is, if you really need to get a hold of me, I feel like you should just call me. Like, enough of the texts. But David Lee says, if you have 265, Schefter has over 10K. You know what's crazy about Schefter? I saw him do an interview the other day where he said he has 0 unread text messages. And that is why Adam Schefter is who he is, because that is disgusting. He has 3 different phones with 0 unread text messages as the league's premier information guy. So I think that I think that there's it just depends on what you prioritize in life. And I am not super, like I said, if you need to get a hold of me, call me. Text messages has never been an effective way to go about it. Ronan says, Buck's got to be single with them ignored text messages. Yeah, I haven't had a girlfriend since March. So we are out in the streets at this point in time, and thus the text messages also reflect that. Anyway. So moving on, we have an NFC championship game and an AFC championship game to pick from this weekend. You got the Patriots at the Broncos. You've got the Rams at the Seahawks. You can let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch who you are picking to go to the Super Bowl. Who is going to represent the AFC and who is going to represent the NFC? Pick the games for me in the comment section, and I will give you my picks here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the Tennessee Department of Transportation, where TDOT reminds you that nobody trashes Tennessee, and you can be a part of the solution to end littering with just got a very funny text, of which I'm going to have to deal with later. That's hilarious. You can be a part of the solution to end littering at TDOT. NobodyTrashesTN.com is where you can find out more about their volunteer opportunities. Electric. All right. So as we talk about these games this weekend, I have not looked at the line yet. I probably should. And I will pull it up courtesy of CBS Sportsline to discuss these two games. And I do love their insights and information. That's not a plug. They don't advertise with me or anything like that. In fact, I pay for their subscription to CBS Sportsline because I do like their information a lot. New England is a 4.5-point favorite at Denver right now. We, of course, know Denver's quarterback situation. They will start Jarrett Stidham, who has not made a start all year long. The Rams are 2.5-point underdogs at Seattle this weekend. So not picking the spread. No over-unders and no props on this particular discussion, but just straight up, who you got? New England, Denver, Los Angeles, or Seattle? We will talk about it together right after I remind you that I've already done that, actually. Never mind. I don't need to do that. Pick the games in the comment section, and we will look forward to your analysis as a result. David says the Seahawks and the Broncos will be in the Super Bowl. I say Bo Nix gets Wally pipped and never takes another snap in Denver. That's a prediction. Let's see. MB says I picked the Rams and the Pats back in October. Okay, very nice. Well done by you. Matt Wilson agrees with the assessment. I don't know when he picked that game or when he made his prediction, if it was as far back as MB's. I certainly did not have the Patriots making it this far. I thought the Patriots had a worse roster than the Titans did this year. And it turns out coaching really matters. And they spent their money a lot smarter than you've spent your money over the course of the last couple of years. So they have turned this thing around pretty substantially. J-Dub says Nix isn't playing. His ankle is broken. Yes, that's not what he's saying at all. He's saying that Bo Nix gets Wally pipped and never takes another snap because he's not starting this game, because Jarrett Stidham is starting this game. So maybe you misunderstood that. But, of course, we all know that Bo Nix is not playing in this game. So I would take the Patriots. I cannot imagine. It would be the Mike Vrabel collapse of all Mike Vrabel collapses. Many of you who say that he does not do well in games where he should clearly and obviously win as a coach, this would be the ultimate Mike Vrabel collapse if he was to lose to a quarterback who's not taken a single snap in the regular season or postseason until the AFC Championship game. That would be crazy. But I will take the Patriots. I would not take them to cover, but I will take them straight up. I think that New England that Denver defense is gnarly, and Will Campbell has had a really, really tough time against a lot of these defenses they've played in the postseason. The Chargers and the Texans are no schlubs whatsoever, and certainly Denver with the most sacks in the NFL this year will give that rookie left tackle a very hard time. But I think that there's enough in New England that they can overcome it. And I think it will be very difficult for Denver to do the impossible at home in this particular situation. Ronan says, remember when he took play calling from Dean Pease and lost us the game? I will never forget. Well, no, he didn't. You're talking about in the AFC Championship game against Mahomes? I don't know if you guys realize that. I mean, you lost that game because Rashaan Evans missed a shoestring tackle at the end of the first half. I remember. I was there. I covered that game. You, in fact, held the Chiefs' offense to less yardage. Mike Vrabel took over the defensive play calling, and this is not to justify it. You can disagree with it either way. But because Lamar Jackson had damn near 500 yards of offense unto himself in the divisional round against you, that's why Dean Pease was removed from the play calling situation. And the defense did hold the Chiefs in that game to less total yardage across the board. Now, I'm not saying that if Dean Pease coached that game, they would have won. I have no idea if that would have been true. I think they lose anyway because they didn't have anybody to stop Mahomes, and I thought they had a pretty good defensive game plan. In fact, they had a 10-point lead on the Chiefs in that game until Rashaan Evans basically let the dam break, and we all know that Rashaan didn't exactly pan out that way. So I think you can remember that game however you choose to remember that game, but I remember being there, and I remember the explanation, and I remember the results. And while the results were a Chiefs win in that situation, the Titans played them better in the AFC Championship game than they did the Ravens in the divisional round, for what it's worth. No, Vrabel didn't take over at half. He took over in that game. He took over after the Baltimore game. That was not a halftime change in that situation. So I think and Jacob says, I choose to remember Tennessee won that game. Well, you did have a 10-point lead. Dennis Kelly did catch a touchdown pass. And then, like I said, Rashaan Evans, just a toe tap situation for Mahomes along the sideline, a rushing touchdown that broke things open heading into the second half. And then the Chiefs did what the Chiefs did that year because they were awesome in that game. So I would pick the Patriots, and I would pick Seattle, and I would pick Seattle to win the Super Bowl in that situation. I think the NFC, whoever wins from the AFC will be an underdog against the NFC. I just think the NFC teams, either of those teams, are better than the Broncos or the Patriots right now. Now, the better team doesn't always win, and weird shit can happen. But I think certainly the NFC team, whoever ends up as the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, would host that particular game. All right. So a little bit of weekend bounce back, and then we'll wrap this up for the weekend. Simon says Nashville makes all your clothing needs possible and gets you great offers, 40% off on a lot of their inventory right now when you go visit them. Simon says Nashville.com, their 1-year anniversary party postponed because of the weather. It's supposed to go down Saturday. It will instead happen the first week of February. Simon says Nashville.com for more details. Okay. Kong asks, am I going to the Super Bowl this year? I am. I'm going to go for a couple of days. I always go out there and meet my agent, and they take me to dinner, and I take a couple meetings, and I go to a couple parties. I very rarely stay for the game anymore. I think the last game, oh shit, it's been a long time. Because I'd rather just come home and watch the football game. At that point, I don't want to, that I have to worry about flying back for Monday morning radio show and all these different things. What is the last Super Bowl I stayed for? I think it was certainly pre-COVID. I bet it was the Rams Patriots Super Bowl in Atlanta was the last time I stayed for the actual game. But most of the time I'd rather just go out, and I went down to New Orleans last year for a day. I don't need more than a day in Super Bowl week. It's insanity every time. The Super Bowl week is always fun, and New Orleans is a hell of a lot easier to get to than San Francisco. I'll pop out there for probably 2 days and hang out and see some friends. And I don't like doing the Radio Row thing either. They sent me to Super Bowl. What was that? 2021. Was that Rams? That was the Rams Super Bowl win. It was in Los Angeles, so it was Rams Bengals. That was my first year with the radio show, and they sent me to Radio Row, and I hated it because I don't know who any of these blue hair Hall of Famers or that they sit down in front of you trying to sell you Depends or X-Lax or, erectile dysfunction stuff or whatever. I did not enjoy that experience at all. So now I take a couple of days off during the Super Bowl and I just go hang out and party. That's kind of my MO at this point in time. Although not even that much partying anymore. I'd rather just pop a gummy and chill. Anyway, so I would take the Patriots, I would take the Seahawks, and then we can talk about the potential matchup should that matchup come to fruition. Weekend bounce back. Who needs to bounce back this weekend in sports? I think that we could go back to Terry Pagula, the owner of the Bills, who gave one of the most embarrassing press conferences of all time earlier this week.
Yeah, can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
It's so embarrassing, the Bills owner. And, listen, nothing happens to him because he owns the team. What's going to happen? I mean, he's not going to fire himself. You're not going to sell the team because he had a bad appearance at a podium or something like that. Just Bills fans need a bounce back, man, because they cannot feel good about their situation having listened to their owner speak. Very rarely do owners make fan bases feel better, except for Steve Bisciotti with the Ravens, because he clearly understands how to actually talk to people instead of being one of these, millionaires or billionaires that is completely unrelatable and doesn't actually have any interpersonal skills. Kong says, Buck, if the Titans one day do make it to the Super Bowl, do you think you'll be covering the Titans when that time comes? And would you move on to cover another team or sport after that? No, I'm always going to stay in the NFL. I got no interest in covering any other sport. It would be cool to do a little bit of college football, just because college football, the atmosphere is more fun and the game day access is better. Well, the pregame access is better because I like to be on the sidelines. I like to talk to people, agents, families, different things like that. Coaches that I've worked. Lucas makes fun of me when I say worked with, like I am a peer or a colleague for them. But when I say worked with, I mean cover, who I've covered in my career. So I always enjoy that. And the NFL has cracked down on that in the last couple of years. I still get on the sidelines most places. The only other team, I love Miami, but I don't think I'd want to cover the Dolphins. I would like to have a home in Miami, maybe my next contract. We'll see. The only other team that I would be down for, mostly just because I love Nashville. It's not any kind of attachment to the Titans or anything like that. Even though, I've been doing this for 10 years and I really, I feel like I've got, I can do the local thing while also doing the national thing from home, which is great. I love that Fox lets me do that. And probably the only other job I'd take is Cowboys. And even then, that's probably just because that would be the ultimate. You would always be relevant. And the thing that annoys me about the Titans is that they have shot themselves in the foot many, many times. Into irrelevancy, which I don't love because, I don't like spending 16-hour days covering a football game that doesn't actually matter for the last 4 years, which has kind of been the case. Jacob says that's because Jerry is a circus. Yes, that's absolutely so. I will take the circus. I enjoy the circus, especially the circus that everybody in the country cares about, as opposed to it just being a very, very contained circus here in Nashville. But I love Nashville. Nashville. I'm always going to have a home here in Nashville. I bought my place here in 2019. I will always have a home here. This is my home. I've been a Tennessean longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life, anywhere in the world, in the country. This is always home. And I know you guys probably don't like the idea of me claiming it as home, and certainly I'm not a native, but Nashville will always be my home base. There's no question about it. All right. That's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate your participation. Thank you. As always, like the video on the way out the door. If you're so inclined, come hang out with us tomorrow on the radio show. We will have Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio to talk about the divisional round, or rather the championship round. We will have Brett Kern to pick games for the last time of the postseason until the Super Bowl, which we look forward to at this point. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a great weekend if I don't see you on the radio show, but I do hope you join us from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone.
He's a hoe, and I want that known. Like, I see why he got punched in the nuts.